In today's lesson, you will learn to add and subtract algebraic fractions. You should already be able to reduce, multiply, and divide algebraic fractions, and you should be very good at factoring. As you go through the tape, if you encounter anything that you do not completely understand, you need to stop the tape and either rewind the tape and listen to the explanation again, or get help. We'll start today's lesson with adding common fractions. Let's add the common fractions 11/15 plus 18/20. The first step in adding common fractions is to find the least common denominator. Now you may be able to look at 15 and 20 and know that the common denominator is 60. If so, you would do it in your head. But let's pretend for a moment that you do not know how to do the LCD in your head, and let's look at a mechanical way of getting it. Now to start, to find the LCD when I don't know what it is, I can completely factor 15. 15 factors into 3 times 5. Then I can completely factor 20. 20 factors into 5 times 2 times 2. So 20 is 5 times 4, or 5 times 2 times 2. Now notice, as I factored the 20, I aligned my common factor. So 5 is common to both of them, so I put the 5 under the 5. Now to get the least common denominator, all I have to do is to read my distinct factors. My 3, my 5, my 2, and my 2. You could just actually draw the line to see how I'm getting it. I've got the 3, the 5, the 2, and the 2. So the least common denominator would be 3 times 5 times 2 times 2. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times 2 is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. So that's the mechanical way that you can get the least common denominator of 60. Now once you know what the common denominator is, then you want to express both fractions, the 11/15 and the 8/20, as equivalent fractions having denominator of 60. In other words, you want to express your given fractions as their equivalent having the common denominator of 60. Now you're going to have to look on your sheet because I can't get all of it on here, but you've got 11/15 plus 8/20. Okay, I want to express them having denominator of 60. Well, to do that, I would have to say 15 into 60, which is 4, and then 4 times the 11, which would be 44. So I can write 11/15 as 44/60. Now the way I did that, I multiplied the denominator by 4. That's how you get the 60. 15 times 4 is 60. And then you multiply the numerator by the same thing. 11 times 4 is 44. So I had to multiply both numerator and denominator by the same thing. And that same thing was whatever it took to get the denominator of 60. Now for the second one, I need to get a denominator of 60. So I need to multiply 20 by something to get 60. Well, since 20 goes into 63 times, what I need to multiply by is 3. Now if I multiply the denominator by 3, I multiply the numerator by 3, because I multiply numerator and denominator by the same thing. The 20 times 3 gives the 60. The 8 times 3 gives the 24. Now once I have the common denominator, I keep the denominator and add the numerators. So I keep the denominator of 60, I add the numerators, 24 and 44. Now I can add that in my head, but I'm going to show you. We're adding the 44 and the 24. I add the numerators. 4 and 4 is 8, 4 and 2 is 6. So it would be 68/60. Finally, you reduce if possible. Well, I can reduce 68/60. I can divide both of them by 4. I can divide both numerator and denominator by 4. 68 divided by 4 and 60 divided by 4. Well, 68 divided by 4 is 17. 60 divided by 4 is 15. So my answer is going to be 17/15. Now I'm going to give you a starred rule, which is one you need to put on your study sheet. This is something that you need to memorize. See if I can fit it all in the screen. Okay. To add algebraic fractions, first of all, you find the least common denominator. 2, you express the given fractions having the least common denominator. So you express the given fractions such that the new fractions have the common denominator. 3, you keep the denominator and add the numerators. And 4, you reduce if possible. Let's look at an example now in which we follow this rule to add algebraic fractions. The first one is going to be very easy because we already have a common denominator. We're going to add 2 over x minus 2 plus 3x over x minus 2. The first step is to get the common denominator. We already have it. The second step would be to express these two fractions using that common denominator. We already have it. So since I already have the common denominator, I go down and I keep the denominator and I add the numerators. So since 2 and 3x are unlike terms, I can simply write it as 2 plus 3x, or I could write it as 3x plus 2 over x minus 2. Now we want to reduce if possible. Well, remember, you cannot reduce unless you can factor. And I cannot factor 3x plus 2, so therefore I know that I cannot reduce. So my answer would be 3x plus 2 over x minus 2.